Welcome to AIA Live, the weekly live stream talk show featuring news, reviews, and interviews related to the sex and adult entertainment industry. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, I'm Charlie Spice, and with me in the studio today is the lovely Keli Richards, who started her career in the porn industry back in the 80s. Now, in preparation for this interview, I did quite a bit of research and came across an amazing interview on the platform, the Rialto Report, hosted by one of the most talented, articulate podcast hosts I've ever heard. His name is Ashley West. I also have to admit that podcast is what inspired the content of the show, actually. Okay. The title of the episode was Coming Out of the Shadows. And today we have none other than Keli in the studio. Keli, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I have to say that many of your experiences you talked about resonated with me. And I'm sure these experiences resonated with many people in the sex industry all over the world. And at times, I felt your pain because you got a bit emotional at sometimes during that interview. I want to thank you for your bravery and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, now you had sent me a list of topics that you want to discuss on the show, and we're going to get back to those topics later, such as the industry and how it has changed over the years since you first started. You want to talk about some key factors causing a negative impact on the industry. Also, you want to talk about training classes on webcam, live cam, and sites that are crucial to surviving in the industry, as well as social media and how it can be used sometimes to hurt other people. Now, these are all very interesting topics, but we're going to talk a bit about your history, the backstory behind Keli before we go into those more serious topics. Well, I shouldn't say they're more serious because your background is quite heavy. Okay, so tell us, what was your childhood like growing up in Boston?
What was my childhood like? It was, uh, how do I put it? It was, as a child growing up, strict environment.
Yes.
I was daddy's little girl. Probably up till he passed away was my life it was filled.
Yeah.
And then after he had died, it became it was turmoil
Yeah.
from there. It was a race to survive,
Oh,
emotionally, probably more emotionally and mentally.
tell me about the family dynamic. How many people in the family? How many brothers, sisters?
I'm the youngest of eight, four boys, four girls. I
Okay.
know, big family.
Yeah.
My siblings were much older than me, so like the oldest is 18 years older than me. I was kind of the child my father wanted to have, but my mother wasn't too keen on it, so I kind of came late in life,
Being
and
being the
wanted
youngest
me to.
one, being the youngest one, I suppose you had many mothers and fathers, and it's kind of hard on the youngest one.
I wish I could say that, but unfortunately, in my case, um, I was left alone. I was left to find my way at a very young age, and I
Oh,
think that's where that need for attention came in. That I
yeah,
didn't care if I was it was negative or positive as long as I was getting some kind of attention.
yeah.
So I thrived for that. Needing to have I had a full family, a big family, but I didn't have that love that you find in full families. And
Hmm. What are some of the childhood experiences that you perhaps can attribute to your taking the path to go into the porn industry? There's an expression in psychology: show me a boy or a girl of 5, and I'll show you a man or a woman of 35. So, what are some of the childhood experiences that you can say became the triggers or for you to get into porn eventually in your life?
I think that what led me into porn, I was attracted to, beauty in and
Yeah,
out of the person. And
yeah,
because I was probably picked on in school as being the ugly, I was I had a click with some girls, but they were very popular, and I was
yeah.
kind of like the Klingon.
Mm,
Um, and so I think that made me more
mm.
need
You,
for beauty, you know, and
yeah,
that's what led me to the porn industry. Also, I think it was to, I'd been raped at a young age. That's how I lost my virginity.
yeah.
I watched my dad, commit suicide. I
Wow.
think it was just a combination of a lot of things. The need to just be around people, be accepted.
Yeah,
But I would have to see the biggest trigger was, here I was I got to have makeup on, I got to wear have
yeah,
my hair done. It was all like, oh my God, I look in the mirror and wow.
yeah,
Well, now that I look back on him, I mean, back then I thought I looked good. Now I look at him, it's like this big hair and all this makeup. And, you
well,
know,
well,
it made me feel
the
pretty.
big hair was the big thing back then. I remember having a massive afro when I was young.
It's crazy. Everybody's like, oh, back then, oh, you're so no. And I've read some actually reviews, and it said she wasn't the prettiest, but
Yeah,
she was, I had other contributions,
yes.
you know.
You mentioned being raped at a very young age. A very high percentage of people in the sex and adult entertainment industry have experienced some form of sexual abuse in their lives. What do you think? What is it about sexual abuse that impacts on them, that causes them to get into the industry? What is the connection between sexual abuse and working in the sex industry?
I don't know if there really is. I think it's more so like I have a niece that became addicted to heroin, and she had a need for which is ironic because my
Mhm.
brother was dead set against drugs and sex, all that, and there he was had now a daughter that
Yeah,
ended up addicted to heroin. But I think what it is that it's the need for the attention. It's when it's taken from you without
yeah,
your permission at a young age,
mhm,
then you think that that's the only way that people are going to love you is
yeah,
that you have this body that they want,
yeah,
only
mhm,
you become to a point where now you're giving it to them, they're
yeah.
not taking it from you. So
Okay.
before you take it from me, I'm going to give it to you so you don't,
Mhm.
the abuse isn't there.
I think that there's people lose self-esteem, self-respect, self-worth when they're sexually abused, and they start to see sex as something people use to take advantage of other people, to hurt other people, to leverage to achieve something. So sex is no longer boy meets girl, girl meets boy, fall in love and have
No,
wonderful
not
sexual
even at
intercourse.
this age it is.
It's a tool, it's
Not
a weapon. And what are your thoughts on what I just said about lack of self esteem? What part does that play?
I think that no matter how much worth we at that age or growing up, that leads us into the porn industry, we don't think we have worth. Even when we do come to the point where we have worth, people still disrespect us. Even at my age now, coming back,
Hmm.
it's how much we tolerate.
Yeah,
We learned to tolerate it, and then we learned not to tolerate it, and then we start to speak up for ourselves. But back
yes,
then we tolerate it because you're paying attention to me, you're telling me you love me, you're expressing your love even though you really don't.
yeah,
You're throwing money at me, whether it's $2 or $200. So it's you're telling me that my body
yeah,
is what's worth to you. So I'm going to use that in expressing myself.
yeah. I see. Well,
And
back
so
then, what what mechanisms or support systems were there in place to assist you as a victim of sexual abuse, and were you able to take advantage of any of those support systems?
Again, excuse me. I'm alone. I was a loner. I didn't know to exercise that option, and
Yeah.
I was always embarrassed or ashamed, or my family made me feel bad, or
Yeah.
so I had a lot of masks.
Okay.
And you could, either dress. I could live on the street, or you could dress me up, and I could be an executive's wife. That's how good I was at
Yeah.
masking anything that was going wrong. It was my responsibility to make you look good.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm. Do you
oh,
did that make you more sexually promiscuous after your rape, considering you did not have any of the support that you needed back
yeah,
then?
absolutely. I had to be sexy. I had to be sexier than I'm still sexier. I'm sexier now.
You certainly are.
But I've learned to use it to my advantage.
Of
If
course.
I
Well,
knew now what I knew then,
yes.
I'd probably be a very rich woman. But
Mhm. At some
you know,
point, you obviously moved away from Boston. Tell me about your journey as you moved away. Where did you go, and what were your experiences?
well, when I first moved away, my what happened was my brother came home. One of my eldest brothers brought me out to California, and that's how I got into the industry. Him and I had a falling out.
Yeah.
I looked in the newspaper. I ended
Hmm.
up at Jim South's office.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be where I got my start. As
Yeah.
far as I've traveled
Yeah.
a lot,
Hmm.
and and then it was after the Tracy Lord scandal. Did I
Oh,
move away?
yeah.
And then it was on. I can't tell you how many states I've been to.
Hmm.
Um, I,
Well,
I always thought that moving was going
yeah.
to be a fresh start,
Of
and
course.
but it's
But
not because you're still with self.
prior to the porn industry, what sort of work did you engage in to to put food on the table?
Oh, in the industry,
No, before the
I was.
industry. Before the
Oh,
industry.
before
Yes. Mhm.
I worked. I was a worker. I started working when I was 13. I
Yeah.
started waitressing. My mother made me go clean apartments. I'd get home from school,
Yeah.
and she ended up moving us into an apartment after we moved from the house. And
Mm.
she made me go out and clean houses. Yeah,
Yeah.
my mother was Italian, full blooded, and you worked. You
Mhm.
worked. So I learned to waitress.
Mhm.
I learned everything. I have my forklift
Yeah.
license. I can
Mhm.
break a vehicle down and build it back up. Whatever you need me to do, it didn't matter how much money I made. My father always taught me to do the best job you can. And that's what I did.
Yes. Okay. As a one of the outcomes of sexual abuse is that the individual, more often than not, would turn to drugs. Was there any drug use and or abuse in your younger formidable years?
Yes, and it was the result of after I guess leaving my mom at the age of 16.
Yeah.
Just couldn't deal with her. Her and I didn't get along at all. I ended up moving in with my brother and his wife, and that's how I learned to use coke
Yeah.
and freeways and cocaine. My sister, who had passed on, I stayed with her. She got very heavily into drugs. She was 5 years older than me, so I was 11 when my dad died. She was 16, and she had already dropped out of school and was into coke. So I was anorexic, practicing anorexia, and
Okay.
it made me lose weight. And that was my drug of choice. Never used anything else.
Well, have you overcome? Are you a survivor of anorexia, or are you still
I am a survivor of anorexia. I am. It took me many, many years, probably up until probably my 40s.
Yeah.
And, I know we'll talk later about going to prison. I learned to work out. And
Yes. Yes.
um, so
Hmm.
I've been very fortunate, honestly. And I hate to say this because I'm not boasting or anything, but I've been very fortunate to have the body I have and have the strength. And it's
Yes.
very natural. It
Mhm.
comes very natural for me.
You mentioned in your interview that you were and still are quite athletic.
I am.
What is your workout regime now? Are you still keeping it up?
I am, absolutely. The more work, the better. Like I'm out, hard work, whether it be lifting bricks or going out there and running.
Yeah.
Yes, any hard work I will take on.
Well, you need to keep your fitness regime up because now
Yes,
that
I
we've
mean,
met,
look at. Can I show this at 57? Who has a stomach like that? Look,
wow,
that's a
very,
six pack, right?
I can see.
I'm 57. See,
Fan-
look, I got muscles
Fantastic.
back.
You're going to need to keep up that exercise because now that we've met,
Of course.
you're going to have to come to Barbados on a holiday. I'm
Oh
based in
yes, can I
Barbados.
throw you around?
Uh,
Is that where you are?
yes, I'm from Barbados, and that's where I am now. And we have some of the
Can
most
I
beautiful.
come right now?
Absolutely, you've got the body for it. You would fit into the Barbados culture quite nicely with that bikini body. So you'll fit
I'm
right in nicely.
there. I'm there. You just say the word, baby, especially with that smile. Gosh, goodness. I need some loving in my life. Look at
The
you turning red.
yeah, if I weren't so dark, you would see me blush. So tell me about relationships in your life,
Oh, Lord
husbands,
have mercy.
girlfriends. Uh,
I said, Lord have mercy. Relationships, I always say that God didn't pick this person for me, and I was too impatient. So I picked him, and that's not a good thing for me. Let me see.
okay. Have you been married?
I'm still married to two men.
Okay. We would not go into the
I know.
legality or illegality of that, but
Yeah. We'll get to the details behind that in my book. But at the end of the day, yes, unfortunately, I was estranged from my. I didn't know this actually. My
yeah,
son
mhm,
wanted to get his immigration for the states
yeah,
before Trump got into office. I
yeah,
think it was Trump.
mhm,
Anyway, so we rushed. He called me one day and he said, "Mom, I need I need this for to
mhm,
get my immigration so I can come down to the States and work." And I said, "All right, get me the marriage and divorce certificate." Now, I'd already been married to my second husband. And
mhm,
so he calls me the next day and he says, "Mom, I have the marriage certificate, but I have some news for you." I said,
yeah,
"What's that?" He said, "Dad never signed the papers in 99." I said, "What are you telling me?" He said, "Well, you're technically still married to Dad." And my dad's a Kennedy. His last name's Kennedy. I said,
mhm,
"What?" So, needless to say, I was already estranged from my second husband. I said, "What
yeah,
you telling me? I'm still married to your dad?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, let me think about this for a minute." And I said, how good is
mhm.
your dad doing right now? He says, "He's doing good." I said, "Guess what? When he dies, I'm going to stay at Kennedy." So I'm still,
It's a good name to have, a Kennedy, huh?
right? So, so we've been working on getting the second one annulled, which
Yeah.
I don't know, it's been taking like 7 years. Neither one of them will sign divorce papers.
Mhm.
I'm saying, all right,
Okay.
well,
Tell us about getting into. Tell us about getting into porn. When did you first get into the porn industry?
I was 18 and, I read it in the news. So look at my hair, the torsi, it's still long, bushy and everything. I was 18 and I seen the ad
Yeah.
and I went to Jim South's office on the pretense that it was for modeling. Again, when we come from a time where people make fun of us, we don't think we're pretty. We think, you know what, let's give this a try. Maybe someone will think differently. So
Yeah.
I got in there and Jim was very sweet. What a sweet man. Oh,
Mhm.
I just loved him. And he explained to me this, it's not really modeling, but this is how much money you'll make and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And he took Polaroids and he made you feel so comfortable and so safe that he
Mhm.
was going to take care of you and you'd be okay, that I trusted him. and he
Yeah.
never betrayed my trust in 40 years. So and I worked. He got me work, and like I said, it started, to where I'm getting noticed, that people are paying attention to me, and what can
Yeah.
I do to get them to pay more attention? And then here come Amber and Ginger, and I'm like looking at them like, really? I was so intimidated by them. And today they tell me, we don't know why, we loved you, but here I
Mhm.
was thinking, no, no,
Mhm.
but yeah.
You've worked with some pretty big names in porn, like John Holmes and Ron Jeremy, Tom Byron, Jerry Butler, and tell me something
Rick
about those
Savage.
relationships. Tell me something about
Well,
those relationships.
Nina Hartley was my first girl I'd ever been with.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and and I make it I swear to God, she'll be the last girl I'll ever be with if I ever catch up to her again. But like I said, I love on Nina because she just taught me so much, and she
Yeah.
appreciates the human body. She really does, and she appreciates and respects you as a person, and
Yeah.
she's very gentle. I worked with Rick Savage. I guess
Yeah.
everybody thought we were in a relationship. We were very close, and I was,
Yeah.
um, John Holmes, of course, Rambone. Um, I made John Holmes's last movies with him, and
Yeah.
Rambone. Um, let's see, Mark Wallace, Tom, a lot with Peter North. There was not so many of them and not so many of us. We just became a family. So
Do
you
you
worked a lot with
remember?
the same people.
Do you remember the very first scene you did, and what was that experience? I mean, were you a natural? Were you very scared? Was it a terrible production? Tell me about
No,
that.
nothing ever back then was terrible for me. I can honestly say that. There was never ever a scene I did that was
Yeah.
terrible,
Mhm.
or anybody made any. It was such a great experience.
Yes.
We just loved on each other, and it was natural. There was nothing fake, no fake come, nothing was fake back then, and we loved on each other.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I wish I could tell you I did. I really wish I knew the first movie I made in the first scene, but I went in full, both feet. Here I
Yeah.
was, someone was gonna love on somebody. I'm going for it.
What was the legislation like back then as compared to now? And also, what was the attitude of the police towards the porn industry back then compared to
It
now?
was illegal back then to make movies. And that's one of the things we'll touch on. Because I don't think, not that it's, how do I put this, not to offend anybody, but when you get into porn,
Yeah.
you have a reason, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
You know why you're entering into this industry. You're not too high or too sober not to know.
Mhm.
So for people not to know who their predecessors were, which have
Yeah.
been the vintage era, Hal Freeman, who made a lot of movies for, Coffer Behind, he
Yeah.
had, porn was illegal. We got busted on the set with Tracy Lords, and he got arrested later on, and
Mhm.
he appealed it. He won the appeal. That's what legalized porn. So basically, we went through the backlash. We got reprimanded, arrested, blackmailed. So that porn would be legalized for people to make it. And that's the unfortunate. If you're in this industry, you should really understand why and
Yeah.
how porn came about. And I think that's really important because I think we really I'm proud, not proud, I guess. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I came from the era I did. I
Yeah.
really am. I think because today
Mhm.
people are too quick to judge others,
Yeah.
and write them off, or selfish.
Mhm.
Um, Overdoses, suicides are running rampant.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate.
The reason why many of the things you said resonated with me is because we've had similar experiences. My father was a police officer as well, by the way,
As
and
my dad was a police officer.
I know that I've done the
Yeah.
research, and
Oh, that's
I ran away to get into whatever could make me money. I left Barbados at a very young age, and I went through the ridicule and the being ostracized from society, from family. A lot of. So when you were speaking in that interview, I I connected with you, and I'm happy we're having this conversation, and I'm sure
well.
we're
Then
going to
I'm
go
ready to
on.
come to Barbados so we could connect.
There you go. I'm sure we're going to continue to be friends, and so you know, you you also stated that your career in porn was a very short one back then. It was only a year and a half. Is that correct? Why was it
uh,
so short?
was it a year and a half? Is that it?
I'm
I
subject to
think it was
correction.
from. I
I'm
mean, you could be right. Back then I was on a lot of coke,
yeah.
and so a lot of
Okay.
partying. Um, was it really only? Well, and I did a lot that year and a half then.
You
But I always had one foot door and one foot up. I could honestly say, I probably could honestly say if my dad had survived, I probably would never have been in porn.
Mhm.
I could honestly probably say that. Um, in that short time, um, I
Mhm.
lived hard then. I lived a lot. I
Yeah.
lived a lot. I lived hard. Yeah. Huh.
What
Wow.
made you well well the jury is still out on how long you were in porn back then, but what caused you to move away
Interesting.
from it?
The whole Tracy Lord scandal. You were, like I said, you pretty much were pushed out, or
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
there was that break, and you didn't know where to go. I mean, they were constantly on my butt. I guess I'm the one they followed to the set, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that they were behind me or
Mhm.
were watching. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, we get swamped with all these police officers or marshals, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And all I remember is the men coming over to me and saying, "Okay, this is what's going to happen. Whatever you do, do not sign or write a statement." I said, "Okay."
Mhm.
And I remember holding up a picture saying, "Okay, this is you. Yes. Okay. Well, what are you doing? What does it look like I'm doing? I'm giving him a blowjob. I mean, what do you want? It was a stupid question to ask." So at that point, then they started scaring you, and they really,
Yeah.
Jim South ended up getting arrested, and we just
Yes.
didn't know which way to turn.
Mhm.
And
Now,
so I ended up. My
mhm.
uncle came out and got me. Yeah,
Okay. Um. Now we all know about John Holmes. He died of complications resulting from AIDS.
yeah.
What were the health stipulations and regulations that governed the porn industry back then? Did you have to
You
get
know,
tested?
we did. It's funny you say that because at one point I thought to myself, "Did we get tested?" And then I thought, I don't remember get. But then I do remember when AIDS came out, we were obligated to be tested.
Mhm.
And I think I made John Holmes' last 5 movies with him, but
Okay.
Mark Wallace as well, and
Yeah.
also another individual, which I don't want to put his name out there,
Yeah.
but we didn't know Mark. Mark didn't even know that he had been infected with the AIDS virus at that time, and a
Yeah.
lot of people today will swear that he intentionally infected people. And on his defense, I feel like that he was really accused of things that he did not have any knowledge
Yeah.
of, that Jim South is the one that told him. So I
Mhm.
don't think he did anything intentional. Mark wasn't like that, at least to me, for me, in my opinion. Now,
Mhm.
as far as myself, we were very careful, and I don't think we really thought. We got tested. As long as that test came back negative, we were good to go. But of
Yeah.
course, AIDS is more of a thing that kind of comes later. So, knock on wood, none of us from that era came out with
Yeah.
AIDS.
Mm.
Oh,
Okay. Well, now, porn is an industry where some individuals with the right type of management and marketing strategy can make an awful lot of money. Back then, were they making a lot of money back then?
they were. And I wish that I had, you got me good crying. I wish I'd had
Yeah.
their knowledge because I wouldn't have been in the position I ended up in. And
Yeah.
that's what I regret the most because I became so addicted to drugs and
Yeah.
I'm angry at my siblings. I'm angry at them. I've learned to
Mhm.
forgive them, but I'm angry that they didn't have enough
Mhm.
respect or enough decency to not involve me as a young child in that world.
Yeah.
And that's what angers me the most because once I had it, I wasn't putting it down.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I probably would have been fortunate to have the success that Nina had or Christy or
Yeah.
anybody else. And that's
Mhm.
what I regret the most. But I
Yes.
survived.
How are you coping now with drug use?
Oh, I'm not on drugs. I don't take drugs. And I don't want people to misinterpret.
Mhm.
Do I have a drink once in a while? I'll probably have a beer maybe once or twice a year. Because I know at one point when we were writing the book, Jim Steele's, excuse me, my co-author, had put in there that I had been clean and sober for,
Yeah.
7, 8 years. But I
Mhm.
mean, I had I wanted him to take that out because I would hate for me to be sitting at the bar and someone had read my book and they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, well, she said that." Everything in my book is going to be factual.
Mhm.
It'll be raw as can be, but it'll be factual.
What stage are you at writing your book? Well, how soon are you going to be ready to publish?
Probably not till spring because Jim has some other
Yeah.
responsibilities and some opportunities and I was procrastinating. I'm not going to lie. I was living on life's terms over the last 2 years that
Yeah.
have not been great to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just now starting to get back on my feet.
Yes.
And not that
Mhm.
I was going to end the book on anything, but get seriously, there's going to be a second one. But I wanted, either way, it doesn't matter how the book ends. The book
Mhm.
ends, I'm still here and I've survived. And that's
Yes.
what's most important.
Mhm.
The book's coming along. It should, after probably the
Mhm.
next couple months, it'll go to edit.
Okay, well, I wish you all the success with your book. I too am
Thank
writing
you.
a
It's
book.
going to be great. I can't wait for people to
I
read it because
sure I will
I've
certainly
had.
be. I'll certainly get a copy, and I want your autograph on it. When you're in Barbados, you must sign the book. Uh,
I will absolutely. I'll sign it with my butt.
you- are you writing it
I've
yourself?
even gone so far. I'm going to
Uh,
audition for AGT as a comic, and I did the auditions.
uh, are you writing it yourself, or do you have a ghostwriter for your book?
I have well, I wouldn't call him a ghostwriter. Jim is a really good friend. Him and
Okay.
I have been at odds, and we've come back. And but he is always he has a place in my heart, so he is a friend,
Yeah.
and we work well together. And it was just how fortunate how we came in times. I have a point. Well, look, one day I'm gonna tell you I don't want to talk to you. Piss me off, and I won't talk to you. I will not talk to you, and I'll come back around and I'll apologize.
Yeah.
And that's just how I am. I don't hold grudges.
Okay. At this point, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue to talk about your journey in the porn industry and also some of
Okay.
your personal experiences. I'm really happy that you took the time to come onto the show. It's it's interesting. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I have time to pee?
You're tuned into AIA Live, the weekly talk show for the sex and adult entertainment industry. If you have a compelling story or agenda to share with our audience, you are welcome to be a guest on our show. AIA Live is the ideal platform to promote your adult industry products, services, activities, and events to a captive audience worldwide. During the show, viewers can call in to participate in the live discussions with our guests. Simply contact us on WhatsApp on 1246 831 1960 or via email at adultindustryassociation@gmail.com to receive a link to enter the studio. Alternatively, viewers can post their comments or questions in the comments section. Now back to the show. Okay, we're back in the studio. We're talking to Keli Richards. Keli, I've not heard of any porn stars or any rock band writing a song about a porn star until I did research on you. Tell
Yeah,
us about
I didn't
that.
know that till 2000, actually.
Did you
And
meet the
when somebody
band? Did you
told me,
meet the band?
I met them 2 years ago, and one of them said to me, "So you're the Kelly Richards we've been singing about for the last 40 years." I didn't find out, and so I reached out to them in the early 2000, and of
Yeah.
course they thought I was a fake. And then when I came back, the drummer Scott he reached out to me, and him and I became fast friends. They're actually doing the forward to my book, and I found so they invited us to a concert in New Jersey, and I got to go on stage, and oh my God, it was surreal. It
Oh,
was so surreal to meet the actual one of the people that wrote the song with Doug Hopkins, who had later committed suicide. Um, he told me how the song came about. They have the actual song in
yeah,
Doug's handwriting,
yeah.
and it was great. It was absolutely great.
But I'm sure the audience would love to know what inspired Doug to write the song about you. Do you have any information on this?
But to my knowledge, what was said was he wanted to write about a porn star, and he picked me.
Ah, okay. Well,
if
let us take a moment to play the
you listen
song.
to the words,
I'm going
at one point he
I'm
says
going
he
to play
bought
the
a
song
gun.
now. Just we're going to play the
Yeah.
song for the benefit of the audience. I've heard it before, you have.
Okay.
So
Oh
let's go
yeah.
to the song.
She came to LA all the way from Boston town, and she wound up on the screen where I saw her going down. Oh, I can't see you at all. I don't know you at all. I bought her films, yeah, I bought all her magazines. Then I watched her every move till I saw her in my dreams. I can't stand it, see her far from behind. I don't know you, well, you gotta be mine. Kelly Richards, come on, come on, come on, come on. Kelly Richards, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Okay, if I play any more of that song, I may have to pay royalties. So let me just cut it there.
Yeah.
I was head bopping to that song. I think I hurt my knee. Uh,
Yeah, so Doug Hopkins and the gentleman Bob wrote that song years ago, and he unfortunately I didn't have the opportunity to meet him. He committed suicide, and he shot himself. And
mm,
but I would love to do a tribute to him with that, and so
I
yeah,
think you should. I think you should. That's an amazing accolade. That's a hell of a tribute he made to you. And
that
now
was very cool.
let us fast forward a bit here. You decided to do a comeback after what 3 decades? What
Yeah,
inspired the
34
comeback,
years.
and how is it going? This comeback, how is it going?
How did it inspire me? You know, I always had one foot in and one out. I stayed in touch with Jim South over the years. I think at one point I even brought my son to meet him when he was very young. Um, and so I wasn't done.
Yeah.
I wasn't done. I hadn't achieved everything I wanted to in the industry, and I also felt I had something to give back to the talent that's in it now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just wasn't done. I wanted to achieve. I just wanted to achieve the success that it does have,
Mhm.
and I feel like I have it in me, even though I got a lot of negative, you know, responses when I came back. I got a lot of, you're not gonna make it. You're too old. You're not 22 anymore.
Yes.
A lot of negative thoughts. So I had ended up calling. What happened was I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was I was working at a hospital, and I had my second husband was very narcissistic. He was very abusive,
Okay.
and he set the house on fire with me. And I was sleeping, and he shot me. I got shot in the leg.
Yeah.
And coming out of that, the hospital said to me, Kelly, we love you, but you got to go. He's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And through the years, I was always a risk taker, and at this point, I wasn't ready to risk my life again.
Yeah.
I didn't have the drugs in me to say, okay, I don't care. You know, I,
Mhm.
I was sober. I actually was clean and sober. I was working at the hospital, my dream job, and I was
Mhm.
doing very well. And
Mhm.
then he just wouldn't leave me alone. So I ended
Wow.
up coming out.
Wow.
I said,
Um,
what better place to go than back in the industry? So I
mm,
called Jim up and I said, what's the chances of me getting back in? He said, well, you're a MILF. I said, what the hell's a MILF? I'm not a MILF. And so he said, well, come on out. Let's do this. And so I
yeah.
did. Took me 2 weeks to get from Massachusetts to
So,
California. Yeah.
so are you currently filming?
Am I currently filming?
Yeah.
Well, that's the intent, but anybody wants to book me, I'm ready.
I
There's
see.
few and
Okay.
far between companies now,
Mhm.
but and I'm learning how to do content. Chazzy, I did a lot of work with Chazzy,
I see.
which
There's
I'm very
a lot
upset
has
with.
a lot has
But
changed. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, I was done.
Okay. A lot has
No, I was
changed
done.
in
You go
the
ahead.
industry. A lot has changed in the industry since the 80s and now. What are some of the changes you have noticed? We're now going to get back to those topics that you wanted to share and discuss on the show. And thanks for sharing your personal life with us, by the way. But what are some of the changes you've noticed in the industry today as opposed to back in the 80s?
I think the biggest change has been the artistry. I think, there's still people that, carry it on, like Lil Freak and Danny Black. They have the same, uh, they say have the same ideas that we had back then, and I think they achieve them very well.
Yeah.
And there's those like Lorenzo and there's the Brazzers, Mark Blaze, but those
Mhm.
are the people that shoot quality work, and I'm sure there's many more. But then
Yeah.
you have those that are in instant gratification. It's like people that take a drug. The
Yeah.
money is more important to them than the art. And I feel like that is what's been lost is the artistry,
Mhm.
um, the money, the greed is more important than the artistry, and that's where I think some
Yes.
people get.
Well, it has the internet and social media have changed the industry in so many ways. I mean, there are people who are doing creating content from their own homes, and uh,
Yeah,
and the way they make money is different to back then in terms of getting content that creates viewership and that, of course, triggers advertising and so on. So it's a minefield now. And are you ready to cope with these changes and this cutting edge technology that we're experiencing today?
well, I think over the last 2 years, I realized that that's the only way,
Yes.
and so now, and people kept saying, well, if you want to do this and you want to do that, you have to have content. So
Yeah.
obviously, I need to have content. So I'm ready this year, uh, going full force, and I just opened up a production company called Backdoor Productions that
Yeah.
I'd like to get rolling. But obviously, it's all in the content. So now that I've learned that and I've educated myself, um, now I'm ready to go. Now I know what I need to know. Now I know what the difference is,
Mhm.
what to look forward to, and I contribute that to, like I said, Danny Black and Lil Freak and all them. That gave me that education. Up until now, I thought, you know, all I had to do was show up and someone's going to hire me. Well, no, you got
Yeah.
to be ready. You got to be doing this 24 hours a day. Um,
Yeah.
because, like you said, the only unfortunate part that I find with social media is that sometimes it puts somebody in a position to hurt others.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's there for. You know, that
Mhm.
social media is not a tool for people to get on there and discredit somebody. If you have an issue with somebody, then you need to be an adult, pick up the phone, at least pick up the phone. Don't text.
Yeah.
That too. I know we text and that's, but pick up that phone. I want to hear you. If you got something negative to say to me, I want to hear your tone, and I want you to hear my tone because
Yeah.
I'm going to respect you when I explain to you why I feel the way I feel. Give me that much respect,
Yeah.
but don't pass judgment on me. I always say, don't judge a book by its cover till you read all the words inside. Then you can come to me and ask me, but
Mhm.
don't think. And I see a lot of girls, not just the females, but the males too,
Yeah.
that turning to communication. That I think is our big uh,
Mhm.
disconnect,
Yeah.
because what's happening is these talents that are committing suicide or overdosing are reaching out and coming from our area. It's our responsibility. I really feel like that. The elders, it's our responsibility. When
Mhm.
somebody reaches out to us, even when we reach out to someone, don't tell me that you're going to follow through and don't follow through. Because
Yeah.
one, if I have a gun to my head, or I have a bag of coke or heroin or whatever in front of me and I'm about to overdose on pills, best believe I'm going to sit there and I'm going to give you those 12 hours because you said, all right, tomorrow I'm going to call you
Yeah.
and we're going to come up with a plan. When you don't call me, that gun is going to go off, that pills are going to be swallowed. Do you see what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
misconnect. Keep your word. If
Yeah.
someone's hurting and they need your help, don't tell them you're going to follow through. Follow through at
Yeah.
least that first time.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm so firm on that.
Yes.
Because I've
Yes.
been in that situation, even at this age, I've experienced when I've reached out to help over the last 2 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
How many
May
times I had a gun to my head?
Are you going to be setting up an OnlyFans account or an account on any other um, platform?
I have OnlyFans, and I just recently started being active on it. And I
Mhm.
have my Sex Panther. I, I'm so, I think I'm too friendly. But when I first came on with the Twitter, and people were hitting me up and talking to me, and please, please, anybody listening to this, I'm not here to offend you, but understand that I'm exhausted. And I've recently been diagnosed with CLL over the last year. So I'm not being rude. I'm just putting boundaries down, as you
Yeah.
can hear in my voice.
Mhm.
Is I have a lot of people reach out to me or they have my number
Yeah.
because I figured, the fans and the followers and the friends, they're what brought us here. They what make us, break us. That's
Yeah.
how we survive. But I
Mhm.
have a lot that have took advantage of me. So
Uh,
now I tell them, if you want to talk to me, subscribe. Because
yeah.
I'm broke. I'm broke.
We are almost out of time, and I want to take the remaining minutes to give you some exposure. How can people watching this see any of your material from the past, or get in contact with you now? Let's start. Is it Where can they go see some of your titles that you've done before?
I would say probably uh, on my website will be coming up.
Yeah,
My website is going to be coming up. So I would say after AVN,
yeah,
I would look forward to then accessing my OnlyFans, Sex Panther,
yeah,
uh, um, uh, Twitter, what
yeah.
other site? Subscribe, not Twitter, excuse me.
Mhm,
OnlyFans, any of the sites where you'll subscribe to. I
mhm.
think that's only fair to me.
Yeah.
So all that, yeah, my website would
What is your
probably.
website? What is your URL so people can get in touch with you?
Right now, it's at KeliRichards.com
Okay.
is my URL.
Okay.
Also, when you go on Twitter and you
Yeah,
click on the LinkedIn, it'll have all the sites where you can
I,
subscribe.
I see. Okay. And what is your username on Twitter? How do they find you on Twitter? What name do you go by on Twitter?
I go by Keli Richards 2. It's Keli Richards and the
Okay.
number 2. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we bring this to a close, I have a facetious, a naughty question to ask you. I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
like
I, I,
naughty. You
I may,
like naughty?
yeah, I may have to apologize
Oh,
to my listeners for asking
no,
this
no, no,
question,
no.
but who's got the bigger dick between John Holmes and Rambo?
Rambo. Rambo has 18, I think he's 18 inches. And
Where,
I never felt him go. I felt it when it was, let me tell you, back then, like I said, it was natural. It was
yeah,
great.
yeah,
And, now we do this, which is great too. Like I had J-Mac and Tyler.
yeah.
I am ready to do, I've not done a DP since I've been back. So let me put this out there. Can we get the DP? And also, Rebel Rider, I'm
Yeah.
taking my crown back. That's all I have to say. Is Sheba Hallie's the new anal queen? Well, I'm back. I'm taking my crown back. So I would love to do a movie with her. Absolutely would love it.
Well, if I ever decide to get into porn, I'll give you a call and we can do some scenes together. Huh?
Baby, I'll just come to Barbados, send me a ticket. I'm there. Do I need to have a passport? I'm there.
Okay. All right. Kelly, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. We are going to have to bring it to a close. We are out of time.
Oh,
It has
I
been
had fun. Thank
it's been
you.
very interesting, and we'll continue to talk. And then any anytime you want to reach out to talk about today's technology, I'm quite happy to have a chat and see if we can bring you up to speed and give you a level playing field to compete with other people out there, so that your comeback is a
Awesome.
successful one.
Awesome. And I
Okay.
have two more things, just two
Okay.
quick things.
Yeah. Go
Just
ahead.
let everybody know I rescue animals. I currently have 4 dogs, 6 cats, 2 are pregnant. Anybody wants an animal, please hit me up. That's one. Two, anybody that is dealing with Ron Jeremy had any participate was a victim of his alleged uh, charges, and you're dealing with not having closure. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. Please reach out to me. I will be available to you 24 hours a day. Please
Mm,
don't do anything harsh. Just pick up that phone and call me, and I will respond.
very good.
So
Very
I
good.
love you.
Okay.
Love you.
Take care. We're out of time. Have a good night. You take care. Bye
You
for
too,
now.
baby. Thanks. Bye.
Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this episode of AIA Live. We would like to thank our sponsors, guests, and our production team. We also would like to thank our viewers for giving us an audience. If you have a compelling story or agenda to share with our audience, you're welcome to be a guest on our show. To schedule a guest appearance, simply contact us on WhatsApp on 1246 831 1960 or via email at adultindustryassociation@gmail.com. You can tune in to this episode of AIA Live at any time in the future at your convenience. Simply go to our website at adultindustryassociation.org and follow the link.